Parsons is somewhere in the Rocky Mountains.
He's traveling. Jenna, can you hear us?
He's going to.
Yes,
Like phone in.
Okay.
just can't see you.
Sorry, I forgot about that part.
Only got 3 full.
Hey,
minutes
Tim.
so far.
I know.
Hi. I just wanted to make sure you were on okay. Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Might be really brief.
I'm going home sooner than I thought.
I haven't heard from anybody else. Oh, and Jean Prado said she was going to log in.
All right.
She might have strep, so she didn't
There's a
want to.
lot of that around.
Yeah, so she didn't want to come. I said, good.
Karen,
Yeah, we don't, yeah, so much going around right now.
Right.
Karen Panett is.
Yeah, she counts.
Oh, she needs to be off. Needs to be off. Well, we'll wait a little bit.
how many more do we need?
3.
So Karen comes on and John comes on. Yeah, but now what happens if one of those 6 leaves? Oh, we can take an associate.
Well, that was an issue at the last meeting because someone raised the question at the select board. So, I don't know. I've not heard any answer. To my mind, someone asking a question at the select board
No,
does
that
not
was-
mean it's the new law.
Exactly.
No,
It's,
I was told no, for 2 to 3 years, there's no voting. I can sit here and listen to you and comment. I
No, but
cannot
there's,
vote.
no, but
No.
there has been a standard practice which got questioned at the select board, but it was just raised as a question.
Yeah,
Like,
if there's not a quorum, you can elevate an associate member for the evening.
Leaving about 6:30.
That's what we've always understood.
Yep, you're right.
Okay.
I'm leaving about 6:30. so
Here's
I'm
Jean.
Jean Prado just hopped on.
I mean, by 8, I'm sorry. I meant to get here at 6:30.
Oh.
Okay, by 8.
Oh, what?
is that Jean Prado?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Karen? Yeah.
I'm here, Nancy. I found it.
How many do we need? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Nancy.
Nancy does not count. She's not a full member.
Karen, and Jean, that'll count.
Karen Panett.
It's
six others. I count 5.
Yeah.
Who are you missing? Oh,
We're missing John Parsons.
No, but Marilyn, Nancy.
Nancy's not a full member.
She can't and I can't.
Well, either of you could if we appoint you.
Right.
Appoint her. She's been at it longer. This is like my 3rd
All right.
meeting, so.
And the question was raised at the select board, but there's been no
Right.
illegal
There's no
opinion on it. No.
Right.
No, that was only in public opinion.
I know, that's all
Public
it
comment,
was.
so,
It's a comment.
so we are appointing you.
We can't,
Can I as chair? Because you could never,
I couldn't make motions, but I always voted.
oh, okay.
That's what I was told. anyway. That's what I always did.
Oh, Mark's giving the
Yeah.
thumbs up on that.
Okay,
Ah,
all
okay,
right,
all right.
We have that on video, so.
all right. So we're going to call the meeting to order.
We need to take the.
First, we need to take the vote.
The roll.
Who's here?
The roll.
Joan Coco.
Rosemary.
Rosemarie. Thank you. Karen Fontinos, no. Karen Janowski is yes. Sorry, Emma.
No, that's fine. Yeah, fine with that.
John Parsons.
No.
Jean Prado.
Yes.
Did I say Karen Panett?
Nope, but yes.
Marilyn.
Yes.
And Debbie Small is a no, and Nancy T
Yes.
is a yes.
You were a yes.
And I am is a yes.
Hope we got a couple more, Debbie Small and
Oh, I didn't think she was coming.
John's on his iPhone.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay, good.
So you're booted off, Nancy.
6:35, everybody's.
Okay, so, Debbie Small, are you here? We can't hear you or see you.
She's on mute.
Yeah, she's here. She tried.
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Yes,
And-
I'm here.
And thank you. And John Parsons? Are you here?
Yes.
You're muted. Can you hear us? Do we really?
No, we can still move
Yeah.
on. Okay.
Okay, I think I just unmuted.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
you're there.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
All right, now, I have one change to make to the agenda. Before we start, next, I know we need to approve minutes, but we are going to move the Elder Services Report up to the top of the agenda. Because Chris has a very important appointment tonight that he has to get to. So we're gonna move him up.
We still have time, but I still have plenty of time. I'm just leaving early.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll just move you up to the top. So you have permission to leave whenever you want. Then we will do the select board recalc update, the Simon's Way liaison report, the trust funds and the ARPA funds, which are spelled wrong again. I want to see how many different ways I can misspell ARPA.
That's right.
That's right.
ARPA.
Is it?
Yeah, that's right.
ARP.
It was wrong. I corrected it for you. You changed it to what I said. So
Oh.
it's wrong, I'm wrong too.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
But we got the bill numbers wrong. It's 1143 and 1724.
ARPA, and then Elder Services Liaison Update, Karen Fatino is not here, she'll do it next week. Then Noxious Fumes is actually gonna be part of Chris. The Senate bill, we're going to actually table. And then we are going to talk about the communication and outreach strategy that was put together by the work group. Then new business, we're going to vote on our Council on Aging rep to serve on the RFQ Evaluation Committee. I have two things to mention that are new, really not for discussion, but name change and inclusion in town capital plan. And I think that's the agenda. So let's go up to Elder Services.
Right. So we had a really good September. We had a lot of good events. Our biggest event for September that went really well was the Hillview event on September 20th. It was a really good event. We had over 100 folks there at Hillview. We played a musical bingo. People are still talking about it today, which is awesome. So
People were talking to me about it.
yeah, it really was a fun event. So kudos to the staff for Anna organizing everything. It really was a really good day on the 20th. So that was a fun event. We had a great Labor Day lunch on the 6th. You can see Movie and Pizza birthday lunch on the 21st and 14th. Elise continues to work on patient portal one-on-ones, which is great. We had a fantastic COA EHS coffee hour last week. I think we had 13 people there, which was it was great. That was a good event, good hour. Elise has been working hard we had a booster clinic on the 19th, flu clinic on the 27th. So thank you to Elise. She's been working really hard with the boosters and flu clinic, and also helping out the public health department a little bit with flu shots and everything. So I want to make sure we say, I want to say thank you to Lisa on that. As you can see, our numbers again are good. We are just continuing our growth. Unduplicated, I think it's our largest month in September, 658 unduplicated. I think that's the largest number, at least back to 2012 that I can see. And the
Where's the 6? Oh, I see it down the bottom.
and our duplicated number still exactly. It as you can see, it's slightly off because I just received the Ramblers walk-in attendance like 10 minutes ago. So the numbers are up a little bit higher. I'll for next meeting I'll make sure those are in there so everyone can see. But we are spot on, you know, trying to hold tight pretty much at 3,000, give or take 100 duplicated people a month. So which is awesome. It's a great place for us to be.
Are we still working on trying to get a shorter walk?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
October is looking just as busy, if not busier than September. We have 2 lunch and learns, one with Fidel on Wednesday, one at the end of the month on acupuncture, Blue Cross Blue Shield presentations, the Trips and Falls. We just have a lot of presentations coming up. We have an evening, Ted Reinstein from Chronicle will be having on October 19th in the evening, is having a talk on general stores in New England. So that should be a really good event. So intergenerational programming is coming back on the 12th. So we have a lot going on. October is looking to be really, really busy. So, which is exciting. And then Halloween lunch at the end of the month. Center updates. So I'm gonna jump over the first bullet point really quickly. We did order a new kitchen stove, should be in hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks. It's hard to say. It has an electronic ignition. It's still a gas stove, but the nice thing is it's electronic. So when it's not running or on, no gas is flowing, which is really nice. And we don't have to worry about pilot lights. Now, so the only time the gas is on is when we turn it on to heat up the food, which is pretty minimal each week. But so I'm really excited that, you know, we'll have the electronic ignition of pilot lights, and it's a little bit more green because gas won't be flowing when we're not using it, like the current one when the pilot lights are on. So that's exciting. This past month, our one van broke down. I want to make sure we say thank you to DPW. They had to replace the transmission. And I was amazed at how quickly they got that turned around. I thought it was going to take a month, and it was about a week. Both Joe and I were shocked when we saw it back in the parking lot. We were like, okay, all right, you're done. So kudos to DPW and their work on that. They did an amazing turnaround to get our sucker done. So thank you to them. Good news so far, it's looking, I'm going to say 98% sure that the tax volunteer program will be coming back for next tax season. Thank you to Anna for getting that worked out. We're just working out some details on that, finalizing some stuff. It's not 100% guarantee, but I'd have to say it's well within the 90s, as long as, you know, the volunteers still have to go through the training. As long as that doesn't scare them off, we'll be good. Fingers crossed. Volunteer coordinator's position has been posted. We're just waiting to see if anyone applies, so that's out there, which we're finally excited about. We are currently working on working on a sound company coming out to look at the acoustics at the Pleasant Street Center. We just waiting for them to see when they can come out, get them scheduled and get out. So hopefully definitely within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to get an acoustic company out there just to take a look at the center, see if there's anything we can do. So that's exciting. Volunteer, old van, new stove. So the heating was turned on in the building last week. Usually, I think they were waiting until October to turn it on, but it got cold at night, so it was pretty kind of cold in the morning. So they turned the heat on. what I learned was, the cooling side was serviced in last March. Filters were changed in the building back in March. Another filter change was done in June, and the heating, preventative maintenance will occur in October. That's when they planned on opening it, so they're gonna keep that schedule. So they're gonna do the maintenance in October. That includes filters, belts, grease maintenance, any associated repairs to all the air handling equipment. So that's coming up in October. So that's the repair or the maintenance dates that I had gotten. So that's coming up. They are scheduling they plan on inspecting the chimney, the exhaust chimney coming up. So they're gonna scheduling it, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, they'll have a company come out, making sure the ceiling chimney is sealed and everything's proper in that. So we're excited about that. They're also gonna do, like I know some folks in here requested, they're gonna do a second air quality test coming up soon, probably in the beginning, within this month, I think. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna bring in a little bit different equipment, and they're gonna keep it there for, I think what I heard was a couple days. So the system can cycle through rather than just kind of going throughout the building and only getting a reading during a certain time. They're gonna expand that so they can get a wider time frame for their test to see how the air quality is as the heating system cycles on and off. So that's, I'm really glad they'll be doing that. So thank you to facilities for getting all that worked out. And I think that's all the center updates that I have.
Didn't you also say that they were gonna look at the
Oh. Yep, they are also going to, they want to make sure, to try to get to the issue of the odor. They want to make sure the chimney, they don't want to do something super expensive. They're not 100% sure what's causing it. And what they're afraid of is if you, let's say you replace a system for a lot of money and the problem's still there, well, that's kind of an issue. So they're kind of doing it step by step, which I agree with facilities. They've been pretty awesome with it. So that's why they're checking the chimney to make sure it's sealed properly and everything's working with the chimney. And then they're gonna take a look at the exhaust and the intake. They are currently next to each other on the south side of the building, I think it is. And they may consider rerouting the exhaust out another side of the building, just in case if the wind's blowing and the exhaust comes into the intake, that may be causing it. So they're taking a look at a couple steps that aren't super expensive first, but I think are necessary, before they continue. So facilities has been working hard on making sure we get our air quality tests. I know I'm glad they're doing it longer, checking the chimney, which will be good, and the exhaust intake. So, and then maintenance is coming up this month. So that's the update I have on the heating system. So they are working as quickly as they can on it, so I really appreciate that. So I think that's all the updates I have.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Chris, I have a question I was thinking about. What percentage of people in the statistics are employed 60 plus people
Are 60 plus?
and employed and are participating in the center activities?
That's a good question, and
Do you have any way to know?
No, but I suspect it's probably higher than 95%. I mean,
5%
lower.
are still.
lower.
no.
I mean,
Only 5%.
mostly people are.
Have retired.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to find that because we don't ask who's
Right, I know.
employed or not.
It's so hard for those of us
I'm-
who are 60 plus.
yeah, my assumption,
But they have an event coming.
I did
There's one
notice
event
Yeah.
coming, it's really in the
Night.
evening.
but we have an intergenerational early evening.
But that's at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's too early, doesn't
Um,
it?
If I had to guess, I mean, the majority, it's probably 90% that come to the center are not employed, they're retired.
Right.
probably. So the majority are probably retired. So,
Large majority.
yeah.
Vast.
Yes.
But-
Yes.
but
And
at
was that our mission to only service the retired and I would agree with that.
I mean, we always want to, all our services are open to everyone. We're just not set up, we're not set up for evening activities, yet. We've added more and we're slowly adding more and more, but, that also, as we move forward, that comes with staffing and some other logistics that we have to figure out first. And there's very few, there's very few, especially surrounding centers, like I know North Reading, a lot of the centers are not open in the evening. There's some towns that do one evening a month or week. And then there's very few towns like Cambridge, but Cambridge has a lot of money, manpower, and staff, and they can do evening and extended days and Saturdays. But that takes a lot of logistics and
Now would be the time to be getting it into the fiscal year 25 budget to support that, wouldn't it?
That's gonna require more conversation between like Jen and myself and how to go about this.
But if we were to do it, and I understand there's no commitment yet, but if we were, would not now be the time to be putting the voice in the budget for fiscal year 25? To get even just like one night a month. I would like to see not just the fun activities, but the services. I would love to be able to take advantage of the tax advice and things like that.
Yeah.
Just like town hall, a night a week.
You mean like the Shine Counselor? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, all those things, just like town hall.
A lot of
to be some
now you have to keep in mind, a lot of those things are not in the evening, like Shine.
But they could be if we had budget is the point,
Well,
and now would be the time.
But you also have to consider, like our Shine comes from Mystic Valley Elder Services, so that also depends upon, it's not necessarily the budget, but the volunteers who come and do it. So,
And stuff for the things that do require budget. Wouldn't now be the time in the process that we ought to be beginning to raise the issues to get it into the fiscal year 25 budget? I'm just trying to get a sense of
And I
timing.
also see,
Oh,
let's
wait.
identify what the obstacles are.
Mark,
Mark, you're gonna,
Mark could probably shed some light on
Yeah.
this.
So two things on that. One, I think we want to kind of demonstrate what's the demand, so you figure out what to do. But this is a great example of what some ARPA budget money might be used for. Not budget, ARPA money to check new programs, new ideas to see what the opportunity looks like. I don't think that I don't think it'd be easy. You'd have to crowd something out of the budget to add that out of the operating budget. And I think until it's proven as something to continue, I don't think that that's a really good fit yet.
right now, the good thing is later this month, the Bridging Generation students are coming back, so that'll be an evening activity, 6 to 7, 6 to 7:30. This is why we've been slowly increasing and testing the waters of some evening activity. But again, this is, there's a lot of logistics into this. My contract is an evening work, but I
But it
do
might be
evening work.
hiring someone to supplement. you.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's money if we did it. We're not asking that we stretch.
Yeah.
I'm not asking that we
But
stretch
this
the
is
current.
adding staff, and this is taking a big step, and like I said, I'm not going to just go ahead and do it. I think it's something that, again, we need to talk about. I think it's important, but, the logistics have to be figured out.
Well, I think it means that we have to define who the center is, what the mission is, who the population is that it is serving, and then if it is serving, including working 60+ members of the community, then what are the obstacles to providing services for that population as well? And I think it is a discussion, so maybe we can put it on, but I think we have to identify what are the logistics and is there a need, like you said. And Chris, I'm not saying this to add
No,
more hours.
you guys are advisory, so we are gonna take this under advisement. But again, Jen and myself and the staff need to figure this out and then see what we can do.
It's an inclusivity thing, it's not just a,
But we also have, you also have to keep in mind, a lot of people who are working do come and use the service, do get to the center and utilize our services
that's back to
when they need to come.
question.
I just don't know how much, like, I know people who've come to Shine appointments, you know, they come during their lunch break or something, for when they can, so.
Jenna has her
Can I, Jenna.
Hello. So we do offer quite a bit of adult programming too through recreation. We have adult pickleball. We also have some fitness classes as well. And we can't forget community education through the schools, who runs a lot of our adult programming. So I think another part of the conversation would maybe be discussing with recreation and community education about existing programming, what works, how we can maybe help gather more interest if there's not a lot of enrollment in community education in the evening, maybe catering more towards our seniors for through community education and elder services. So more collaboration there. And I know, Marilyn, we talked about that maybe a few meetings ago when you had brought in a community education brochure.
Yeah, I've got a new one, I can bring it over to you.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, so
Catalog is out
maybe,
now.
maybe that's a good first step is Chris and the community education director and Jim and recreation all meet and collaborate on some programming and maybe gear it more towards seniors in the new year or something like that.
So when are elder services, when is your budget due to the town manager?
And
Yep,
is that
we're-
the first
We're
step?
working on that now. So we're usually done pretty early with our asks. So probably mid-October, we'll probably finalize our asks. And last year we did ask to increase the elder services budget. I believe the amount was $20,000. Don't quote me on it, but I think the intention is to keep asking for more to again increase that operating budget. So when ARPA runs out, we can sustain the level of programming and things like that. So I think that sentiment holds true for what you're saying. So certainly we'll ask for more and hopefully we get it.
So that would mean the discussion that we're having here about reaching a population of seniors that's not currently being served would be considered for whatever additional monies might be included in elder and human services budget for FY 25, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So again, like Chris said, there are a lot of logistics and staffing things that we need to consider, but certainly we can take it under advisement. And if it's part of our ask that we want to add nighttime program and more nighttime programming for our senior population, then we can ask that specifically for the budget increase to sustain that in the future.
That'd be great. Karen.
Thanks, Jenna. I think that that's something that we need to acknowledge as well, is there are 60-plus members of the community who are involved in pickleball and the recreation and community education. I honestly forgot about those. Like I'm not aware of what the Reading Rec is doing currently. So I think more that collaboration and partnership and acknowledgement of, yes, there are many 60-plus members of the community already involved in those activities. But maybe we could do more like in the Pleasantries or something, some link to the community ed as well as Reading Rec programs so that that can be more of the collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. Yep. And community ed runs pickleball and rec runs pickleball in the evening. So definitely it's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Mark has his hand up again.
Hello.
Are you gonna talk about the ARPA funds by any chance? Are you gonna mention those? You had mentioned them before, no?
Oh, in terms
Anyway.
of this, in terms of talking about this topic?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely would, because so and as Chris was saying, kind of the hardest thing to do is to talk about adding a person because there is a desire that that would be a kind of a permanent ad. And it's usually less kind of the people specific thing and more kind of, hey, what's the need? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? One of the specific purposes why the select board set up some of this ARPA money was to explore new kinds of programs. And so it seems to me that the stronger case and opportunity is to say, hey, what are the kinds of things we might want to do? That we have Recalc is exploring specifically some of the age 60 plus programming that's going on in other places also, and best practices. But to bring that together to consider, that's the kind of programming activity that these ARPA funds could be used for. And the goal is, look, they have to be committed by the end of 24 and, see what's going to happen. If then, it's working, there's a demand, great. That's the right opportunity to then come back and say, this should be an ongoing operating kind of thing. But I think kind of saying, hey, let's just add people is something that as a government, we want to be obviously very, very careful about. And there is a place to fund something like this already to test it, which is really the right thing to do here.
So what are your suggestions, Mark? How does one go about doing that?
So
Is
Jenna,
that-
and
Okay,
there is the opportunity to do that now. If there are specific ideas to try and, figuring out what does that mean? It means staff coverage. It means, what is the activity? What are those pieces that would go with it? There's that opportunity now.
okay.
Mark, maybe, I think
Marilyn?
you could be the historian on this. The town hall didn't used to be open in the evening. I can remember when it wasn't. And they shifted to the model that one night a week it's open, which for working people I know is heavenly. You can actually go and find out about your tax assessment or whatever one night a week, and there are people there. What did it take to get the town to make that shift?
Well, number one, they moved to a 4-day work week.
And what did it take
But-
to make that happen?
So I think a
Start with that.
combination of when people would come, testing it out to see if it was correct, if the assumptions were right, that it would make sense to have those evening hours. And then kind of putting that together as a proposal. I mean, that was a major restructure.
I know it was. Well, this would be major if we actually did it, the full-fledged.
But I think that the demand is what needs to drive it. So let me take one step back. I think this is an important idea and an important discussion. And we need to think about it. We need to talk about it. That's why Recalc is working on all sorts of different things they're working on. And it would be great to think about what are some ways that we could test this now? What are some ideas that might be interesting? Talk about that. And I think that, Chris and Jenna can think about what would make sense. How would we try it? What are the different issues? And Marilyn, you're spot on. One of the big changes is not just kind of programming staff. It's also custodial coverage. There are a lot of other issues that come along with it too.
Yeah.
But just thinking about what that means, try it, talk to people about it, and kind of actually in some sense build the demand by making people aware of it. If we just kind of throw it out there and see if people come one time, not so sure you're going to get a great read.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious about how they collected that information and tested it with the town hall change.
We also have to realize, you also have to realize that a lot of the evenings at the PSC are rented out. So we have to figure, there's a lot of logistics to this. Like right now, every Monday there's something, every Wednesday there's something in October, Thursdays are starting to fill up.
Right. No, I'm not saying it's simple. I don't think anyone
Yeah.
is. We understand. It's just,
I
the
also want to
question is, what would it take? And
Yeah,
so-
I also want to make sure, here's my other thing that I want to make sure of is, you guys want this. But I don't see many COA board members at the center. I see only a few. So I want to make sure if we add evening programs, I also want you there to be supportive too. And I think that should be a role of the Council on Aging Board. I see Nora a lot, I see Rosemary, and I see John.
It's people who are retired.
Tired, yeah.
They're
But,
retired.
which I understand,
I'm not
You're
totally
You're
retired.
not totally retired, okay.
but I want to make sure that's a factor in there that, this is stuff. I think it's good for the COA board. I want you all to be there to be supportive too. Because if we do this and then you don't show up, I think that looks poorly on us. So I want to make sure we keep that in mind.
I think something like an evening flu shot clinic would probably be a big hit. I think that evening.
I mean, there's a lot of things, that we could be here all night and.
And I'm going to close conversation saying that there definitely is an interest. Recalc is working on it with their programs, Nora's on
Programming and
that committee.
surveys, yeah.
Obviously, there's an interest here. And there are a lot of concerns and logistics that need to be sorted out. I'm, especially for FY 25, if we wanted to have some input into that, maybe we can't have input into that, but maybe we could have input into the ARPA funds. So I'm just thinking maybe, because if we wait until November, it's too late.
We're talking FY 26 then.
Yeah, so, help me here, how?
I was still planning on asking for more money in the operating budget, and I think Chris can agree too, just in general, because based on recalc, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're significantly lower than a lot of our peer communities in Elder and Human Services for our operating budget overall. So I think that was from the get-go that moving forward until ARPA runs out, we would ask at every budget ask that we came to, that we would ask for, $20,000 and get our budget back up to where it should be compared to all the other peer communities. So I don't really know if something's changed since then, or if you have any advice on that, on how to go the right route.
So I think a couple things. One is definitely we need to kind of build the story, but the basis of the story is what the money is for specifically. So the notion of just kind of adding money, I think is really a tough sell. I think the town meeting will have a lot of issues with that too. I think having specific activities that we're working on and reasons for doing it is exactly right. And that's what we want to do. And I think that as far as budget cycles are concerned, using ARPA funds means that, it has to happen before the end of 24 anyway. So that, I think, is really the window we're talking about. So I'm not sure it's as much a operating budget question as it is, hey, if there are programs that make sense to do now and test and try, let's do it.
And this would be in addition, this would be an additional ask from the ARPA to use.
No. There's a bucket of ARPA funds that aren't yet spent in elder services.
Right, but I think.
There's no new money coming.
We also have to keep in mind, the plan is, and we started this back in the spring, we just took a little hiatus with the summer and we just, haven't got back to it. We're starting evening activities again this month, at least once a month, maybe even twice. So you have to keep that in mind that moving forward, yes, we are doing some evening activities. I think I have one planned in a week or two with the Bridging Generations.
Which one is that? That's
The high school student. No, it's at 6 to 7 or
Okay,
6 to.
I looked
6 to
for it,
7:30.
Some
school
kind
doc.
I don't-
of our pumpkin.
We don't have it, no, that's something separate.
I
just
was
don't-
looking for it for this month, I
Yeah,
didn't see it.
It's not out yet because the students are still finalizing.
Okay, because I've been to that event and it was.
Right, you were
Yeah.
there for the games or something.
Yeah, it
So,
was great.
We plan on, as we move forward now, and just summer's a little bit harder, but to do at least one evening, 6 to 7:30 a month.
Have they reached out to you again this?
Yeah, I've been in contact, they have an
And you think
entire.
there'll be an event this month?
Yes, there will be an event. We're just finalizing because we have so much going on. We're just trying to finalize the evening.
Do you know what it is?
And
I was looking.
When
for
or
it, and
is?
I was
What
wondering
it
what it is,
is.
because I honestly was looking for it and I didn't notice it.
Because it's not out there yet. I just literally, hold on one second, let me just,
And I know I can't go to the TED.
Yeah, so if we were to make suggestions or to offer advisory kind of things, what is the best way for us to do that? And I'm gonna ask Jenna, is it to compile a list of possible programs and with the pros and the cons and the limitations? Is it,
How can we help you?
yeah,
well, I think right now, I think a lot of it is just giving us a little bit of time so we can test the waters. Right now, tentatively Thursday, October 12th is the next Bridging Generations from, I think, 6 to 7:30. I haven't heard back on which activity they want to do. But I think 6:30 to 7:30 on the 12th is what we're looking at.
I don't know if we can really get into the details on programs at this meeting, but it does sound like that Elder and Human Services is moving forward, is moving in that direction, trying to find programs and services that can be added at night. It sounds like this group might have some ideas as non-retired people. So I'm gonna say, and as far as the ARPA money goes, I don't know. I think it's in need of further discussion and we can't do it tonight. So so we're gonna move on to the next agenda item. Unless someone has no one's gonna.
No.
Select board updates.
Hi again. So the real update, I think, at this point is that the RFP has been issued. In another week or so, I think there's a question period, and then I think we looked this up the other day, but it's late October that the selection process will get underway. In other words, all of the proposals will be in, and then the selection committee will meet and go through, which one makes the most sense to go forward with. So appointing of the representative is exactly the right thing to do here. Recalc has sort of done that. I haven't heard the update. We appointed one person with a provisional second person if the first one can't do it. I think the other groups are doing the same so that it's ready to rock and roll. The select board is going to assign a person at our next meeting, which is a week from Tuesday. So we want to have that in place. That's the big update in terms of what's going on. The one other thing, so, and I think this is helpful, Nancy, back to your question and kind of relating to things. The food pantry did come to the select board and said that they had used all of their funds, that funds are going out very quickly because there's a real huge need in the community right now for the resources that they can offer that they can't take care of themselves. They are now a 501c3. They're going to do their own fundraising, but the board decided to kind of scrape any extra money that there was from other groups and put it toward the food pantry. So $28,000 was the request. That's what the board approved. And it went through a lot of discussion, 2 meetings worth of discussion, but basically it was kind of demonstrated need with no other source. And that's kind of how we did that. There may or may not be other funds that are left over time. We're not going to leave any money on the table. I can assure you, as a select board, I mean, everything will be allocated in terms of what's going on. But I think, Nancy, if I understood your question, hey, are there additional ARPA funds that would come toward elder program at this point? Not all the funds are used yet, so I don't think that's even a request that would really be able to get people to listen to it. So there are still funds. How they're going to be used is, Chris and Jenna are working on that and deciding, what they can support and get done. I think providing ideas and other things is wonderful. And and it's got a, that's how it's going to get done at this point. I think that's a much better avenue as opposed to kind of looking at other sources right now. So, are there any questions on kind of what's up at select board stuff right now? All right then.
Thank you, Mark. Recalc liaison update. John Parsons or Mark or,
And who's the?
You there,
person?
John?
I don't know.
John,
No,
It's iPhone John. I'm assuming that's you.
John, you're muted.
But there's someone else who's dialed in, we don't know who that
We
is.
don't know. We'll get to it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in a hotel out in the Great Smoky Mountains and I don't have any notes with me at all. So I don't have anything to add, but just let me point out, just for purposes of this meeting, the minutes were never accepted. So sometime or other, somebody should go back and do that.
Can RCTV bleep?
there's going to be a letter about that or a phone call, you realize that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I can give a grab bar of an update if you'd like, Nancy. Hold on, I can top that.
Let's move back to the approve of the minutes.
Vote to approve the minutes, what day, which one, September 11th, no, the 11th was it?
The 11th would be the first one.
Yeah,
The
vote to
18th.
approve the minutes from the September 11th meeting.
Second?
Wait.
No, then we'll have
Okay,
discussion.
okay.
Do we have a second?
Second, Karen Panett.
Any discussion?
Just a couple of minor edits, really.
Yeah.
Maryland shared, they also have a bus route that stops at the senior center, was the point. It's actually a stop, it's a terminal point, in senior center.
See that one was,
Pardon me?
what was the edit to the minutes?
This sentence on page 2, Maryland shared, they also have a bus route. What I would add is that stops at the senior center, so. And to John's comment about there not being a problem, I believe John had said that he'd asked the people at the senior center, and I pointed out that those are people who clearly have a way of getting there, so that's not going to give you an unbiased answer on whether or not there is a problem, so I would.
Can I just remove that content from the minutes?
That'd be fine.
All right.
That would take care of it. And then I just had a question down on the Chris has a goal of 3,000 duplicated interactions a month, which I think is what we're saying. He's on par to exceed with over 5,000 this month. Is that number correct?
That's year to date,
Year to date, okay.
fiscal year to date.
Fiscal year to date, so.
She can spell it however she wants.
I will fix it.
And that was all I had on that one. Oh, no, I'm sorry, there was one other. That's just a point of confusion. We tried to form a work group, but my understanding was once we knew we had a quorum involved, we realized we needed a full council meeting.
I'm gonna remove that content.
Just move, I don't think that's the case.
Well, that's
but-
what we ended up doing.
But
I point out.
it's gonna be removed.
Well, it's what we ended up doing. It is what the agenda was.
Well, we had to because it was a quorum,
I
but it was
understand.
still a work group. It was a work group with a
At the
quorum.
All right, whatever. I think it's very murky as to what the wording is on that, but yeah, it's okay. And we were confused ourselves, so.
Alright, so with those adjustments,
Do we
any other comments?
vote to accept the minutes?
You have to take the
We have to do a vote.
Yeah.
Nancy,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Who else is on there?
Jean,
Jean, Prado,
yeah,
maybe. How about Debbie Small
Yes.
and Karen Panett?
Yes.
and John Parsons.
Yes.
Okay.
Joe Coco?
Joan Coco.
Yes.
Okay.
Get everyone?
Jean. I don't know if she's still, Jean, she's on me, Jean, you're on mute. We've got a quorum of yeses and one
Abstain.
abstaining.
And move to accept the minutes as written, as written for the September 18th.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
One question, Karen Patino is listed as both not present and present.
She was present.
I know she was.
Yeah.
Oh. It talks about 4 categories for open discussion. The agenda had 2 items. One was the strategy, outreach strategy, and the other was confirm and fund participation in the conference. So there actually were 2 formal agenda items to that meeting. It's not that there were 4 things to be discussed and then there was a motion.
So can I change it to say 4 topics were discussed?
That's okay. I don't know if this helps you. I printed the agenda.
No, it's helpful. No, I'm just gonna edit it to say 4 topics were discussed because that's what.
Well, 5, because we also discussed the motion.
Okay. Well, can't you just say there were
2 agenda items?
2 agenda items?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yes.
That would do it. Okay.
All in favor, Karen Panett? You're muted.
Yes.
Okay. Debbie Small,
Yes.
John Parsons,
Yes.
Joan Coco,
Yes.
Jean Prado. Jean Prado, you're on mute if you're still there. And I don't know who that, can someone read the
Number, the phone number?
Yeah, who is 94425?
That's my telephone number.
781.
Who? It's Joan.
Oh, it's Joan.
So she's
Yeah.
on to us.
Oh, okay,
I couldn't get through, so I dialed in.
okay. All right, so.
People in this room.
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Okay, so we have quorum. Everyone's in favor, no.
With the amendments, yeah.
Okay, so now we can move on to, do we recalc? Did we want to do a quick recalc? Mark?
If I could just step in for a sec. So we put together the questions that we want to address to different centers. That's being kind of accumulated now. Our next step is to decide who we're going to ask these questions of. So we're looking at quote unquote peer communities, some of the ones definitely that we already spoke with, others perhaps that we haven't, and to learn a little bit more about best practices and find out where those communities are. So at our next meeting, the goal is going to be to finalize the question list, which is just kind of being accumulated, decide what communities we're going to talk to, who's going to do them. And I know that Jenna and Chris want to have a role in that, either as joining us on those calls or perhaps running some of them themselves, so that we can get that going. And then the other thing is that once we have a designer that's hired, we have a group that's going to work to get them up to speed ASAP on all the work that we've already done in the community. So all the different studies that we've done, as much of the stuff as we've learned, presentations that we've made to town meeting, et cetera, bring all that together to get that group up to speed really, really quickly so that they're we're gonna make sure that we're not redoing things that we've already done. So that's the plan.
Sounds good. Anybody have any more questions? Okay, Simon's Way, liaison update.
So we haven't met since we last met, but we do have a meeting on Wednesday, and our topics of discussion are, we're getting a presentation on the dog park and an updated presentation on the Reading Pickleball Association. And we're also getting an update on the request for information to see, we're getting an update. The deadline hasn't passed yet. I did want to say one thing though, not Simon's Way, but there was a large group of people that attended the FinCom meeting recently from the Reading Pickleball Association. And I did happen to speak, and I did also ask how many people are 60 plus. And I was very surprised to see that a large majority of people in the audience who are pickleball players are 60 plus. And I want to acknowledge that. So, and again, that goes to Jenna's point earlier about the collaboration with the Reading Rec. So I think, that this is something that's coming up at town meeting as well. And it's an intergenerational activity. It's a lot of 60 plus members are participating in pickleball. So that's it.
Was there something on that agenda about ARPA funds? It was on the next SWEC agenda. It was AR.
No, we don't have anything to do with ARPA funds.
Okay. All right.
No, it was RFI, the request for information.
Yeah, that's it. No, it said APRI or something like that, request. Anyway.
We just got an updated agenda report.
Yeah.
Notice it, but that doesn't mean anything.
I was just curious what that was.
I can tell you. Packet revised. I'll just look quickly at the agenda.
Maybe it was just a typo and it was supposed to be
Oh,
RFI.
RPPA, Reading Pickleball Association.
See,
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, we're right on time, Nancy.
Okay, requests for funding. Oh, I should ask Chris while he's still here.
Oh, I'm gonna help with that.
Okay, go right ahead.
So let me just pull up my notes here really quick. So sorry.
Mark says.
So Chris would like to request up to $1,200 for the month of October for the birthday lunch and pizza and a movie.
This is from ARPA? Is that what you asked?
Through Burbank.
Oh. We have a discussion. We have to do a motion.
Yeah, I think we should.
Someone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Why, I'm not resisting the request particularly, Jenna, but I thought we had agreed 2 months ago that we wanted to hold off on taking these things from Burbank and be working on the ARPA funds and letting the trust funds grow for now, so I'm a little surprised. What was the thinking?
I don't disagree. But that was what I was asked to do. So maybe you can talk to Chris offline about that.
Do we want to approve it from Burbank, and what do we want to do? He needs it for when? When is the event?
October. So we have the birthday lunch and pizza and a movie.
He needs
So I
the money.
believe last month he requested the same thing. So from what I recall, but
Do you think this has already been approved last month?
No.
no, I'm saying
Oh.
he asked for a
Oh,
funding request for the
he
prior
did,
month
and
through
several
Burbank.
of us were puzzled. We chatted later and said, I thought we were shifting, and so I just raised it again.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we could definitely expend the funds from the ARPA programming money. That's what we've been doing for the majority of our other programs, obviously. So I do not see a problem with that. So if that's the message you want me to bring back, I can certainly bring that back, and then we can revisit the conversation sometime this month.
It's just, I thought he had initiated the request, and I think it was reasonable.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it's up to you, Jenna.
Yeah.
Because you're making the request. You can either move forward with it or withdraw.
Okay, I will take back my request and I will make the decision to use the ARPA funds and I will revisit the conversation with Chris and
Okay.
Marilyn and Nancy. Marilyn, you're the vice chair, correct?
No,
No,
John
John
Parsons
is.
is.
Oh, John, okay.
So we have to, I will,
Nancy, you and Chris will revisit that conversation.
have to take back my motion. What's the word? I have to
Rescind.
rescind my motion.
Yes,
Okay. I
thank you.
rescind the motion.
Do I have to second rescinding it? I second rescinding it, no. Okay. Okay.
All right, so, and there are no council on aging requests, I'm assuming. So that we move on to ARPA funds and trust funds, the financial report.
Sure, does anyone have any questions on the ARPA funding specifically that was used or anything on the trust fund reports? The trust fund reports, I believe, were for the FY '24, so that would have been starting in July. Again, it does take quite a bit of time to reconcile through our Treasury Department, but we haven't been expending a lot of funds from the trusts, as you know. We've been using a lot of ARPA funding, so.
So Jenna, this kind of falls in line with the ARPA report. Do you think you might be able to, and it kind of falls in line with what Mark was talking about? Do you think at the next meeting, you could give us a broad overview of what the planned projection is for spending of the ARPA monies through this calendar year? Is that something you can do?
Sure, and I think I would like to meet with you as the chair first to go over some suggestions too. I was gonna probably work with a member of the COA and Chris because I did meet with Fidel about this very topic.
Okay.
Because there was discussion, I know, at the select board and other meetings perhaps about reallocating the funds and using them towards other improvements in the building. Maybe a new heating system down the line if it was needed, but again, as Chris said, we're taking that one step at a time. But other building improvements that we can think of and things to creatively use the funding. Obviously, we would love for all of the programming money to, all the ARPA funding to go towards programming, but it's impossible to do that in the allotted time frame. So we definitely want to speak with you, Nancy, and make sure that we're on the same track before we bring it back to the whole entire COA. So if you would be open to that and the COA would be open to that with just you, I and Chris meeting and the vice chair and or one other member, that would be great.
Yep, we can do that. And then at our next meeting in November, you will present
Sure, yes. I would
the
be
full scope. And then that will, I think, take care of many of the questions that this group has.
absolutely. And pending our conversation too, I will give that update, and then pending our suggestions, if there is a reallocation of the funds that were, because they were voted on a certain way with certain amounts of money going towards virtual programming, supplemental programming space, accessibility improvements, etc. So if there were to be any changes in our conversation and then in the open conversation with the COA, we would then need to take it to the select board and they would re-vote on that allocation of the money. So this is definitely a needed conversation, and I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'll be more than happy to present in November.
Great. Karen?
Nancy. Hi, Nancy, it's Jean. Jenna, I have a quick question. I understand the ARPA funds, etc., but you just said something that triggered a question for me. You mentioned if we needed a new heating system. If we did not have these ARPA funds and a new heating system was needed, where would they get the money to pay for this? So why would they even consider going into the ARPA funds where it's a public building? Shouldn't they have allocations set aside for that building's maintenance?
I can't speak to the exact allocation of the facilities budgets. I assume that they would have some type of emergency contingency plan, but a lot of these heating systems, I would assume, would be on a capital plan for, 10, 20 years. To our knowledge, the system isn't failing right now. Certainly there's an issue with the smells that you have been getting, but we don't know quite yet whether a new system is needed. So I think once that is determined to be the case, if it is, then there might be several ways to pay for it. I'm not sure. But certainly if the ARPA funds are available, I think that that would be a good use of the funds, and something to definitely consider. But that's not my decision.
I know, but see, I disagree with that.
Yeah. Jean, can I ask all members that have specific questions that they would like addressed and to send them to me? And when I meet with Jenna, we'll bring those up and talk about them. Because we don't have time tonight to really go over each of the items. But and there is some case history. I think it was Barrows School replaced heating systems that were not at end of life. So there are some examples out there of the town funding those kinds of upfront facility costs. So let's table the discussion until we actually see the big picture. Then we can all chime in. Karen?
So Jen, I have a question, because I'm noticing this year-to-date report is through June 30th, which is the same as we had in last month's, was also through June 30th. And unless I'm reading this wrong, and the year-to-date is different for last month, September, even though it was also just through June 30th, it was 77, the year-to-date was 77,000. And this year-to-date through June 30th is 111,000. Can you just check into that? What
Yeah,
am
I will look into that, definitely. I don't have the report that I gave the last time, but I can definitely look into that and get back to you, Karen.
I just happened to look to see if was it at the exact same report, but they both show an end date of June 30th.
Okay.
So I'm looking at September's, the one we got with the September meeting, as well as the one we just got today.
ARPA or the trusts?
The ARPA. So yeah, the year-to-date is showing a different amount, even though the end date is still June 30th.
Okay, I'm getting what you're saying.
So maybe the end date was really July 30th or something. Good eagle eye.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
Well, no, I was just noticing that it ended June 30th and I was surprised.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No, that's good.
Very good.
So the upshot of that discussion is Janet is going to present an overview / more detailed view of what the upcoming expenditures are gonna be for ARPA. And she and I and Chris are gonna meet beforehand. People can send me specific questions and then it will all be brought forward in the November meeting. All right? All right, so our next topic is, actually Karen Fantino isn't here, but she is on the Merrimack Valley it's actually called Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley. They've changed their name. And she is a liaison for that. So she is going to take that over. Noxious fumes update, Chris did that earlier. Vote to take a position on the Senate bills that involved raising the bedding limit in public buildings. John was going to put together a letter that we could take a look at. He hasn't had a chance to do that. I don't know if he's he hasn't had a chance to do that. And what he told me is that Senator Lewis said it's probably gonna be pushed out. So there isn't a huge time crunch for this. So we'll put this on for the next meeting.
There's just a minor correction, the numbers on the bills, it's 1143 and 1724. 143 is something about diaper changing tables.
I did my best to read my scribble.
I understand. You came close.
Report and discussion. I am gonna take the liberty here of moving up the number one item from new business, because the last two we don't even really need to discuss, is vote on the Council on Aging rep to serve on the RFQ evaluation committee for the new senior center. And we've had one volunteer who's raised her hand to do it, and Nancy Twados is the volunteer. So I would like to put her name forward as the person to represent the Council on Aging on the RFQ committee.
We have a motion. Second.
Did everybody hear that out there? Okay, all in favor? Joan Coco
Yes.
and Karen Janowski
Yes.
and John Parsons
I don't think he's online anymore.
and Karen Panett
Yes.
and Jean Prado
Yes.
and Marilyn
Yes.
and Debbie Small.
Yes.
And can you vote for yourself?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Nancy, yes. Okay, the vote is taken and Nancy Twados is our volunteer rep on the RFQ committee.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yay.
Mark mentioned that the other groups are also specifying someone to be like a backup. Just
Well,
in
no,
case.
recalc, there's someone who had an interest but it's on vacation. So
Okay.
they have an email out to him, but if he doesn't respond,
Okay,
they do have
okay,
some.
okay, fine.
So the next update is a report and discussion from the Communication and Outreach Strategy for a new senior center work group. Vote to affirm support, see attached minutes. So the minutes were included in your packet, as well as the outreach campaign.
Is the document you're talking about, it didn't have a header. It seemed to be the summary of what we actually did. Who wrote it? Is that what you?
Oh, the contents? You put the minutes. I thought I put the minutes in.
Well, we did the minutes already.
Oh, that's right, we did the minutes already.
But
So
then
this
what
is,
you're asking.
this is kind of a summary of the minutes and what we did, sorry. And so for people that aren't there, I'm just gonna do a really quick summary. I don't know who's left, Joan and Debbie and Linda. Otherwise,
I'm on my way out.
okay.
See you next month, ladies.
By like convention,
Otherwise, we are all here. So, what the group decided to do was using that list of, names, using that list of ideas that were generated at the previous meeting, we came up with, tasks to be completed that we thought were doable. And people volunteered for each one. So if anybody here is interested, or you know of anybody who's interested, we thought a letter campaign to local newspapers, and Karen and Marilyn were going to work on that. Host a public event, and Karen Panett, Karen Fontino, and Jean Prado were gonna work on that. Townwide notification via email and regular mail, that's me. Presentation to town meeting on COA accomplishment and goals. I think that's off now. I don't know, I have to, I don't think we are gonna be asked to do that. I
Which
need
one was that?
The presentation.
the presentation to town meeting.
Why?
Why not?
I think Recalc is gonna do it.
I thought that we were being asked to do.
I don't know, I need to check with Mark.
All right, I thought we were being asked just to do one on the Council on Aging in general, not just.
I
on this.
did too, but what I heard at the select board meeting was something else.
Okay.
So, and I need to get in touch with Mark to
Okay,
confirm that, I will. Jean Prado is going to work on RCTV outreach, and Nora was going to work within the Reading Neighbors Network outreach. So I don't know if Karen and Marilyn were able to meet.
we met,
We did.
we met.
So what are your ideas?
So, Marilyn, did you take notes?
I took some notes.
We
Discuss
discussed,
strategy meeting.
yes, it was a strategy meeting. We targeted that we will write letters to the editor with different focuses every time. And so, Marilyn, did
We
you
had
write?
three. One was
Yes.
focus on the people and their need, right? Sort of what's the composition of Reading's elder population and their needs? And what do we know, and what do we not know? And what's being assumed and we don't necessarily know. Another one focusing on budget, as Jenna was mentioning earlier, Reading spends far less than other towns. It's all geared towards making awareness of what Reading elders have available now, what might they have, what's a reasonable expectation, what issues need to be. And the third one is focus on deficiencies. What are the shortfalls in what we currently have, particularly in the picture going forward? So that's our first three things.
So we wanted to emphasize different things with each letter. So when we were also questioning, what is the best way to get it out into the public through news sources, and I think LTE is, really is the only option. So, but we needed the data to back up because we wanted to provide factual information in our letters.
And I offered to collect a lot of that, because a lot of it has gone across my desk in the last year. So I can gather what we know and I can identify things that we need to find out, but shouldn't assume.
Okay, and do you are you two going to generate the letters? Is that your
Yes.
thought?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've mentioned that I've contacted Jane Wellen twice now and gotten no response. I don't know what's become of the town's support for putting out our press release. I don't know if she's been away maybe. I don't know, Jenna, do you know? Has she been out or anything? I've been trying to reach her over the course now of about 3 weeks to say, okay, we're ready for a press release. And I'm sure she's busy, but it's been unusual for her to not get back and say, I'm busy, I can get to you in a week or something. Do you have any?
Yeah, that is unlike her. I did see her today. I don't know if she had taken some vacation time, but I can
Right.
follow up with her tomorrow and touch
Yeah.
base with you.
That'd be great. I'm not criticizing. I'm assuming there's very good reasons. I
No,
just sort of, because I don't see her, I just sort of grasping in the dark. We'd like to get that press release out with the link. It's got two new important links. One is the link to the video and the other is it's got the new email address that will go directly to the Council on Aging if people have feedback, and we'd like to start publicizing that as well.
all right, awesome,
Thank you very much.
no problem.
And this is a town-wide press release? Is that
Yes.
how it works? Okay.
Yeah, she's got a long list of, it can go in the Globe, it can go in the Chronicle, it can go in many publications, and she just sort of pushes the button and off it goes. That's how I understand it. It won't go to the Facebook groups, that's separate.
Okay, and Karen Panett and Jean Prado, were you guys able to talk a little bit about hosting a public event at the Pleasant Street Center?
No, we didn't get together. When we were at the meeting with Karen and Jean, we need to get the information out so that when we have the meeting, we have substance to discuss and be able to answer questions on. So after we determine the press release and that information goes out, that's when we thought it would be more appropriate to have a meeting and host an event.
Okay. Good, all right. And townwide notification via mail and email. Actually, Nora so nicely volunteered her husband, who knows Excel, and I have yet to get the street list to Nora. It's my fault. So I will do that, and then it's a matter of, we'll come up with either a letter or a postcard that we then can reach out, reiterate some of the information that was in the letter, and do some publicity that way.
Do we want to try, because we can do that, it'll cost around 10 grand per mailing.
For the postcards?
Yeah. Alternatively, if we could get a printer to be interested in printing something like Pleasantries, they'll do that for free because they can sell the advertising space. So all we would pay for is the postage, so 10 grand becomes a lot less.
Do we have to get advertisers, you mean?
They do it, they
They
do
do
it,
it?
they do it. Pleasantries doesn't cost the town a penny. The printer prints it for free. In the past, when it used to be mailed out, that money came out of Burbank.
Wow.
But I don't know if you do any mailing out of Pleasantries right now, Jenna, do you? Or is it all just email and pick up in person? Do you know? I haven't heard for a request for funding it out of Burbank in over 2 years, I think, so.
I think there's a subscription. I know that Joan is going to speak.
They have like 70 they mail.
Okay,
70.
all right, so it's relatively inexpensive. They used to mail it twice a year to every single household.
They used to mail it they used to mail it 3 times a year.
Okay, and it was a big postage thing and it came out of Burbank, that's the only reason I
Yes,
know
it
about it. But the document itself, my understanding, and actually Chris said this at the last meeting, it costs nothing. So I'm not suggesting we necessarily talk about expanding Pleasantries, I think maybe it needs to be a information sheet on Recalc and the new senior center and the need, or something like that. It's sort of like a paper webpage really focused on it. It's something to think about because it would cost a lot less than the postcard and possibly be much more visible. We could do it many times for what it costs just to do one postcard. So it's something to think about. We'd need to connect with a printer and see who's
Why don't
interested.
I'll put it on my list to talk to the company that prints the Pleasantries.
Okay.
And see if I can find out the details. for
That would be great.
And Joan is right. There's a mailing list of people who opt in and want to get the Pleasantries mailed directly to their home.
Yeah, it's not very many,
No.
because I'm on that list.
And Jean Prado, do you want to talk about your experience with our CTV of late?
Well, excuse me, I have put a phone call in requesting to a couple of people to call me back. I wanted to run a few things by them. I have had no response. My next thing is to possibly get down to an in-person. I have noticed, like over the weekend, if I go to the station, like last weekend, there was a note not broadcasting. So I don't know if there's been technical difficulties, but I will follow up this coming week to speak with someone from this RCTV.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know, Nora, we kind of put you with Reading Neighbors Network outreach, but
Well, one of the good things is the president of RNN goes to the senior center frequently, so she's very aware of what's offered. So that's good. And Tom Model, who was a founder of RNN, came to your last coffee. So he's getting more educated on what's the latest. The only issue is that I guess there is a bylaw in the RNN profile that says that you cannot align with any group or organization. I haven't read the wording, so so I don't, I'm going to discuss that with him, but maybe on an individual level we would support, because there's lots of individuals, but as a organization they cannot support, and I don't know if this is similar to what they're talking about. So, but I'll follow up on that.
Our RCTV has a similar thing. They can't be seen as advocating a
Any
position.
an opinion, yeah.
In fact, the Council on Aging, we were told, could not be seen as advocating like a vote this way versus that way. We can be sharing information to our heart's content, and that's part of our mission. But we couldn't like put out signs saying, vote this way in the election. That's what we were told. Which makes sense.
so we're moving forward. We've got some volunteers. Anybody who wants to help volunteer on mailings and notifications to people, please let me know, because I will take anybody and everybody.
It didn't come out quite right.
I know, who wants to help. Anything else on this topic for?
Tomorrow night, I'll be at Jenna's table. She's sharing a chair at her table, except we didn't sign up for one for Council on Aging at the new Reading Residents event at the library. And I will be handing out our wonderful jar openers, and I've printed out a pile of the ones that we divide in the middle that simply has a little bit about what's going on with the new senior center and the link to the video. And I might do one more that if I've got time to print it up, that's just simply the mission of the Council on Aging. The others get too far into it, I won't be able to connect them that much at that meeting. But anyway, I'll be there promoting us and our needs, and sharing company with Jenna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. We'll be there too. Our Veteran Services Officer.
Good. One of the things of the slogan.
Oh,
That's what
right.
I've been sort of trying to think of things, but the only thing I came up today, I Googled when the Pleasant Street Center was founded, and it's an 1883 building. So to me, I think they deserve a new building, 1883. But I don't know how to incorporate that into a jingle or
See, I live in an 1895 house. I love to restore,
you love to restore.
Yeah, I mean, you can't preserve. architecture.
Gene, I thought the senior center was a historical
It is.
building. You couldn't do anything with it.
Well, nobody said that, right?
No, you
There
can,
are very strict rules, but.
But no, I mean, they're investigating
Right.
yeah,
that as a property,
Yeah.
yeah,
But there are very strict rules.
what you
There
can
are,
do.
yeah.
can't do.
I'm told we can change the doorknobs to put handicapped accessible doorknobs, but I don't know that you can change the door.
I think the library was a historical building.
Was it?
I need to go back and check that.
Ah,
I think it was
But I think the
19.
library was a historical building and that they added the addition off the end. So I think it can be done.
Well, that's what the RQ will.
Yep,
that's
right,
about.
right,
That's part
right.
of what their responsibility is.
I didn't know the school was a historical building.
I don't know. I don't hold me to that.
The original library might have been. The
Well-
library used to be just
Town
the
hall.
connection to this, yeah. Town
Yeah,
hall.
Right,
I didn't think the school was historical.
maybe not.
Didn't know.
All right, next item.
Well, I'm gonna do the last two, and these are just food for thought. Talking about a name change, and for people to just start thinking about it. We all say the word senior has negative connotations. So if we don't wanna use the word senior, what do we wanna use? And what do we wanna call, we could even change the name perhaps of the Pleasant Street Center to something else right now before we do any moves anywhere or renovations. I just put on here Pleasant Street Active Living Center.
Well, the whole recalc, Reading Center for Active Living, I mean, was that supposed to be the new name?
No,
No,
that
that
was
was never-
just
No,
Okay.
just-
That
the
was-
name of the committee.
Okay.
But for this group to think about it in terms of, is that something maybe we wanna move forward with now? And think about changing the name? You know, we
60
could,
plus center.
Yeah.
so maybe we'll have to have another brainstorming session to figure out what we may want to call it, if we do. And then the other thing that I had on here was, I just wanted to let people know that actually it was Marilyn and I sent a letter to the select board, not as COA members, but as interested citizens. And we asked that the Pleasant Street Center be included on the town capital plan. Apparently it's on the capital plan now, but it's open. There's a placeholder and there's no reason or dollar amount there. So what Marilyn and I were asking is put it on the capital plan with the thought for something, renovation, possible heating replacement. I think it has to be definite in order to be on the capital plan. But being on the capital plan puts us in position to receive town funding for things that might come up with the building.
Did you get a response?
The response was that the town, the response was that Fidel was gonna take that back to the town. And the department that works on formation of the capital plan was going to work on that and see what could be added for the Pleasant Street Center. Just so that we have something there for renovations. I mean, you could just you could walk in there and, you know, mold remediation down in the basement, or, you know, the acoustical thing, which I know that there was some ARPA money allocated for that. But by putting the Pleasant Street Center on the capital plan, it puts it in position, should something fail, to fix it.
It's basically long-term planning.
Right.
It just, actually Jenna was mentioning it earlier, you know, the burner at some point will be reaching its life expectancy, but from what we're hearing, there's no life expectancy plan that's currently in the capital plan. And what this is doing is saying, just like whatever school it was, that they replaced it, the furnace, just because it was getting old, it was time. We're asking that they take the same approach to planning long-term for contingencies, really. I mean, but it's all expected. I mean, you know your roof's gonna fall apart in 40 years, you know the pipes are gonna go in X many years. I mean, it's just long-term planning, and we aren't currently planned for. So we're asking them to start doing that.
So those were the two things that I wanted to bring out. What do people think, and then we can close the meeting, but what do people think about a possible name change? Karen?
So I was a little surprised to see that. I think people haven't even adjusted to calling it the Pleasant Street Center. And I think, you know, everybody calls it the senior center, or a large percentage of people still call it the senior center. So I think Pleasant Street Center hasn't been adopted across the board. So now changing it to an even longer name, I think is not going to be received from the community. I think Pleasant Street Center does take out, you know, the stigma associated with senior center, and yet it's still called the senior center. So I don't recommend a name change at this point unless if we have a different building, I think then. But at this point, we've already gone through one name change and it hasn't been adopted universally. I don't see a need to change it again.
Maybe we can find the name that will be adopted by the senior community, and it would make sense for the public. It's kind of like on the idea of the logo. You know, if you have the right name. Jean?
I have some thoughts on that, and I'm finding that there are a lot of people in town, they don't know what the Pleasant Street Center is.
Exactly.
And I think there can be people moving in, or even residents now. For some reason, I have no issue, but with the word senior. I think it needs to be in any title that we have. It's a placeholder. What we are as the age, unless you just say active living for 60 plus. It is a senior center. If someone's driving in town looking for Pleasant Street, they're looking for a senior center. I wonder how many people know that the Pleasant Street Center, if someone was looking for directions and they said, where's the senior center? They do not know the Pleasant Street Center is for seniors.
In my experience.
I think the word senior somehow needs to be incorporated, whether it's on the logo or in the name.
How did it come out of the name? What was that effort?
I think Jane Burns
Yes.
advocated dropping it because senior had a bad connotation.
She voted it, yes, with Jane, to take it out of the name.
Okay.
She didn't want senior center anymore.
Karen has her hand up.
What do you think, Joan?
Well, Karen has her hand up.
Karen, sorry.
Okay.
I don't think anything in your name it's gonna make any difference.
Okay.
You could call it junior high school and it'll still be the senior center.
What do you think, Karen?
I think that just changing it now throws oh, do we have a new place? Where we're trying to get a new place? I
Building.
think it just
Add confusion.
adding to it. So I would say we just stay the course. And when we get a new senior center, Pleasant Street Center, Active
Okay.
Living Center, then we would come up with a new name at that point. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds better anyway.
Okay. Good. Anybody else?
No, just a pitch on a different topic. The Board of Health has their new survey out.
Oh, yeah.
Please fill out your surveys, encourage other people to.
There's a few surveys going on.
I know there are quite a few out. I gave them lots of feedback. It wasn't a liaison with the Council on Aging. They simply asked me for my opinion. So I gave it, as you know, I'm always happy to do that. And 31 questions, I rewrote 19 of them. And
And if you're still looking for feedback from you, I started to fill it out, but there was no indication of how long it would take. And after I got through a few questions, I'm like, okay, this is taking longer than I thought. And so I just stopped. Because usually they'll say this will take about how many minutes? There was no
It was long.
indication
It's
how
long.
long. Yeah.
It's long, it was longer. They didn't take all my advice, but they took a fair amount. I mean, originally it had something like, what age group are you in? And then if it was over 60, it was like, or over 60. So they broke things up. I got a fair number of things in. I didn't get everything I wanted, but there's more questions in there about, do you have a caregiver or do you have, are you
Mobility
do you offer,
issues.
there's more. I did my best for us.
No, I thought it was excellent. I filled it out
Good.
and I thought it captured some of the things that we're looking
It did, some of them.
to find out from Reading.
It did.
You know, who's mobile, who's driving a car, who's
The driving the car didn't go in there, I don't think. I wanted that, but what did go in is a question about transportation.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to have one about, is yard work becoming an overwhelming burden? And that didn't make it, but is your house, it's like the plumbing or things like that becoming overwhelming. So some of it got in, it was progress. But anyway, fill it out. It does take a few minutes, it's not short. But it will have
But
good
it
information.
will collect information that this council can
Can
use.
use, absolutely.
Move to adjourn.
Yes, I was gonna sort of say, I gotta leave.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Karen, Rosemary, Debbie Small,
Aye.
Jean Prado,
Yeah, aye.
okay, Meryl, and everybody here.
Does everyone, one of the.
I'm an aye too.
Or yeah.
You're not.
Nancy, have you got yours?
You seconded that.
Marilyn. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
See ya.
See you tomorrow, Jen.